Okay, I guess we'll just jump straight in and start. So this is our sort of soon-to-be regular Lectora product support session that we want to sort of get going. We did one back in, I think, November it was, that went down pretty well. So we want to try and get those going. Obviously, open for anyone to jump in. I think most of you know me anyway, but I'm Will. I'll be running these sessions. I'm a learning technology manager. I handle all sort of product stuff, support, training. As you probably know, you've probably spoken to me at some point before. So these sessions are just a way for us to showcase some stuff going on with Lectora and look at some support stuff. Obviously, we manage things from clients all the time. Sometimes more common things pop up often, and we want to have a look at them, make sure everyone's aware, and then maybe a new feature pops up, we want to talk about it. That's the general idea here as well. I've got Michael and Lisa here if you wanted to jump in.
Hi, guys.
Hello. So most of you, or some of you, will know that we did, like Will said, we did this back in November, and we wanted to kick it back in and really get this on a monthly basis. So I'll throw in there now that after this session, by all means, if you have anything you'd like us to run through at the next session, please send it through to either myself, Lisa, or Will, and we'll start putting those in and start collating them and showing a bunch of different things. It can even be a support issue or just something along the lines of going, hey, I really struggle with variables. Can you show me something on how variables work? Or can you show me how to do a click and reveal page? Anything at all, just send it through to us, and we're going to start collating those and doing these sorts of sessions every month to run through as many of them as we can. And then also help you individually if you need help straight away with your projects within your companies. And for anyone in Queensland, I hope you're all good and okay. I do know some people haven't turned up from Queensland today that are missing and understandable, while they're probably packing their houses up and all that at the moment. So it's completely fine. We'll contact those people later, and if anyone is in Queensland, I hope you're safe.
Also, I'll just throw in that if you're part of a bigger team, we're happy to run sessions just purely for you and your team. If you have a few users and trying to get to these things is difficult, you just reach out. We're happy to book a customized session for you as well. So
yeah, the whole point of these. That's it. The whole point of these is to help you use the tool to the best of your ability. So, and maybe to broaden your own horizon and think a little bit outside the box of things that either will make your job easier, or maybe you want to build a page that wows your manager or something along those lines. These sessions are for you. So input is greatly appreciated.
No problem. We'll have time as well at the end for any questions. Obviously, I'll take questions on the topics we're looking at anyway. Feel free to chime in, even if it's just to say, hey, I've had that issue or something like that. That's fine. And we'll have a look at the end for those as well. So from there, I'll jump straight in. So for this session, the main sort of feature or topic I wanted to have a look at is something that's it's been around for a while, but it's been popping in and out, and they're often updating little features and things, but it's to do with importing PowerPoint into Lectora. So it's a pretty common thing a lot of people doing these days. There's a couple different ways it can be done or used, and we often think people maybe don't realize it's an option or don't realize that it's as powerful as it is, depending on what the options are. So we'll have a bit of a look at that as well. So just to start with on that, we've seen this used by a number of different clients in different ways. Maybe all your training started out as PowerPoints. That's pretty common if you've got SMEs doing your training, or obviously if you didn't have an authoring tool or something like that, a lot of your training may have started out as PowerPoint. And there's always that process of looking at a PowerPoint and building it in Lectora. Some of that can be made a little bit faster by just importing the PowerPoint at the start. And I'll go through some considerations and stuff like that as well on there. The other thing as well, sort of knowing that process, a lot of people just use PowerPoint for the SMEs themselves, or even the developers, to actually storyboard the project first without having to do it all in Lectora or whatever tool you're using as well. So yeah, again, it's sort of a process flow type thing. You can get the people who have access to PowerPoint to set up the general layouts and things like that, and then have that imported into Lectora so that the fun interactive stuff can be added as well. I'll show you this in action in a second. I'll just go through a couple of different ways we can do this as well. I'll show you where they all are. So there's two different things we've seen, or two different ways this can be done. You can import just an entire PowerPoint file end to end as a project. It'll create that Lectora project with the PowerPoint slides as pages. All the content will come over. There's different things to do with images and other stuff that I'll have a look at as well. But outside of that, you may already have a PowerPoint set up, or maybe you've got already got a course set up and someone's adding new pages from a PowerPoint file or similar, or maybe you've already got a template file and you're wanting to just import parts of a PowerPoint into your project. That's also an option as well. It's a slightly different place to go to do that, but it's very easy and has most of the same settings as well from there. So we'll quickly have a bit of a look at that, and then I'll talk more about some of these as I go through. So a bit of a preview there of what we're going to look at, but I'll jump into Lectora itself and we'll have a look. So jump up in here. So first I'll show you just starting completely from scratch. If you've already got a PowerPoint file and you want to bring it in, depending on what sort of assets are in there as well. So on your sort of getting started screen here in Lectora, and this is the latest version, but most of this is the same for whatever version you're using. They have done some updates recently with the PowerPoint import, so there's some slightly more advanced options and things like that when you're importing, but I'll point those out as well. But you can pretty much start from here and go import a PowerPoint file. If I jump in there, we'll bring up my screen here as well. Basically choose the top option, PowerPoint. Sometimes it takes a second for it to come up on the right here. Go back and forward. And here we go. So there's a couple of different things you have to look at. Obviously, you have to find a PowerPoint you want to work with. I may already have this selected, but I'm going to go in and actually browse for it again anyway. And I've actually just grabbed a PowerPoint from one of our other sort of preview showcase sessions just to show a bit of an example here. So I find my PowerPoint, open it up. It'll name your project, or it'll try to name the project just directly based off whatever the PowerPoint was called. Of course, you can change that later if you need to, but you can tweak it here if you want. And it shows you where it's going to save that. So it's got the default Lectora location. It's just going to create a new course file in that location for you. Now, some of the general options you can see there to start with, the main thing you probably want to look at is page size. So Lectora page size, you've often got a very specific thing set up, whether it's the default or you've specifically set it with a template as a wider size. Here you can use the standard size or standard width for Lectora, which to be honest these days is probably a bit smaller than most things you would use. A lot of people are going more with the full screen view. That's the default option. You can have it actually just grab from the PowerPoint as well. So it'll take the PowerPoint page size instead. Either way, it's going to fit the content from the PowerPoint onto your screen. So you don't have to worry about it from that side of things. It's more just what you want your Lectora course to end up looking like and size-wise. You can also customize and add your own width and height. So if the Lectora size is wrong and the PowerPoint size is wrong, you can set your own and do it that way as well. A couple of other options, which some of these are new, as I said. If you've ever used tables in anything, tables can be a huge pain, whether it's in Microsoft Word or Lectora directly, or especially PowerPoint as well. If you already set up a whole table specifically in PowerPoint, it may sometimes do funny things when transferring that over into a Lectora table. So some people opt in to just have the table come over as an image instead. If you're doing things like accessibility and stuff like that, you probably don't want the whole table to just turn into an image because you'll lose all your text. So that's just an option that you can either tick on or off and see how that works. Depending on how complex the table is, if it's a simple enough table, it'll transfer over fine. It's probably best for it to be sort of tweaked and set up within Lectora anyway, so to make sure that it works correctly, but that's an option you have there as well. Another one there, which is some people use a lot, some people don't use, is the page transitions. So in PowerPoint, obviously back in the old days, you've got PowerPoints where you've got your different wipes and fades and all that sort of stuff between each page. That's always been an option in Lectora between pages as well. I don't think it's used that often, either from preference or people just don't know that it's there. But you can have those transitions carry over directly from PowerPoint. So if someone has specifically set up specific types of transitions between pages in the PowerPoint file, you can have that transfer over. It does depend a little bit on what options were in the PowerPoint and what options were in Lectora. So you can opt to have no transitions. It'll just remove them all if they're there. You can opt to have importing only transitions that are supported. So there may be some that are in PowerPoint that Lectora doesn't do. I think some of the more fancy ones, like you do like a checkerboard or something. I don't think Lectora does things like that necessarily. it'll just ignore those and take it out. Otherwise, it can remap it to the closest transition, or it'll just give it a default one so that it doesn't remove it completely. Again, just little things to play around with. I tend to not use transitions a lot myself, so I leave that default off, but to each their own. They've got options there for you. Now, there's some new advanced options here as well. I did have a little bit on the screen before about images and stuff like that, so that's something we can have a chat about. Pop that down. First of all, any images or shapes or anything you've got in your PowerPoint file, they're going to convert over into Lectora in some way. Some shapes and things can just remap to a Lectora shape. So if it's an actual rectangle you've done in PowerPoint, you can have it become a rectangle in Lectora, and you know how the shapes work in Lectora, so you've got your own settings to play with there, rather than it just cutting it out, putting it in as an image, which means you can't change colors and borders and shapes and all that sort of stuff as easily. So you used to just default and it would transfer them all over as images, but now it's a little bit more clever on that. The image format that it does pull over for things that are images, it'll basically convert them all to a single type. So you've got basically PNG, JPEG or GIF there. If you know you've got GIFs in the PowerPoint and you specifically got them in there to animate, then you'd want them to come over as GIFs as well. Otherwise, I think it's usually safest to just have everything as a PNG. The main difference between PNG and JPEG is that you can have transparency on a PNG. There's no problem having an image that was a JPEG becoming a PNG. It'll work exactly the same, but if you've got something that with a transparent background or similar and you turn it into a JPEG, it'll just black out the background or white it out or something. So it's safest just to do PNG for all, unless you're doing some stuff with GIFs, which, yeah, depending on how much that's done. On top of that, there's different things that Lectora does that you're probably well used to with your inheritance and global objects and that sort of thing. If you've used PowerPoint a fair bit, it has something similar called master slides, all that sort of stuff, so that you don't have to add the same little background and rectangle and logo on every single screen. You can have it inherited down. PowerPoint doesn't call it inheritance, but it's the same concept, and they can map to each other. So global objects and things like that in the PowerPoint, you can have that actually set up to inherit those properly in Lectora. So rather than recreating all those objects on each page on the screen, you'll actually create them at that higher level in your Lectora file as well. So you can play around with that. You may opt to not do that and you do just want specific little pages, in which case you can turn that option off as well. If you've ever imported a PowerPoint in Lectora, you will probably have seen it adds these little actions at the top as well, which basically have it so that hitting enter or spacebar possibly, or the arrow keys will transfer between the pages. So it's pretty much setting an action in Lectora to go next page if you click spacebar, etc. That used to just always pop in, and you almost always would just delete them because unless you specifically wanted your course to work that way. It's now an option to turn it on and off as well. So you can basically tick that box or untick it if you want to. I won't go through every single one of these, but the last little thing here is to do with shapes and images as well. You may have, it's pretty common in PowerPoint to create like a graphic that's a combination of different shapes. You may have some lines and some other stuff. Maybe it's a diagram with some arrows and things like that. By default, it'll convert them over to images as well, but you can have it so that it creates just a single image, which it sort of detects that there's a lot of groups of little images, and it creates that as a single image as well. This one can be a little tricky because you can really fine tune the parameters there. So smaller than a certain size, or if there's this many number of shapes within it, all that sort of stuff you can fine tune. I don't know how complex people are doing their PowerPoints these days or whether you need to, but that's an option to import that way as well. You can always re-import things in a different way. If you've checked one of these options and they didn't really work properly, you can do it by changing the width and height. So maybe it missed one of those groups that you'd set up as an actual little graphic, or maybe it added one that you didn't want it to. You can come in here and turn it off, try again, or change it around as well. And I did mention before about the shapes. So I'm pretty sure all the shapes that are in Lectora would be in PowerPoint and vice versa, but if they're not, it'll just turn them into an image instead. And you've got that option to tick that as well. So there was probably two of these options in the past, maybe the page size, maybe the image thing. Those are the only things you had to do with importing PowerPoint. So they've actually added a lot more customization there. And if this is a process that you're going to do pretty regularly, you'll probably get to a point where you know sort of exactly what settings you want. And you just have them set each time. You get your PowerPoint from your SME or whatever your process is, and you run it through to actually set it up that way as well. I will just import this one to show you a couple of other things, and we'll go from there. So give that a second to import. Obviously, depending on how big the PowerPoint file is, how many images you've got, if you've got videos, audio, all that stuff will carry over as well. But if you've got a lot of stuff in it, it might take a little while for it to import and pop that open. Were there any questions just while that's loading up? I don't think it'll take long, but I'll just stop for a sec.
I just did have one question. When I look at my Lectora, I don't get all those options that you have. So there's like 3 drop downs. I only get the one.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because I need to update my Lectora, or is it a
Yeah, so do you know what version you're using?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
Yeah. If you've got it open at the moment, you can actually go at the top right-hand side to this little question mark, and you can usually go about Lectora, and it pops up a little screen that tells you either the version, or it'll pop up a little tiny screen in the middle that tells you. Either way, I'd say, yeah, if your settings look different to mine, it would just be a version thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think in either the last version or the one before this, they did a fair bit more with PowerPoint import. So like I said, a lot of those options are only recently added.
Yeah, okay.
But you'll have the basic stuff, and it's just more that fine tuning that they've added in. Well,
Yep.
Again,
Cool.
because people seem to be doing it more often. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
No, that's all good. Yeah, so this is now, I'm in Lectora. Probably recognize this already. You can see basically had any PowerPoint slide I had before, it's just been created as another page in Lectora here. Pop them open. Anything that could have been remapped into something that makes sense in Lectora has been done. So you'd recognize this PowerPoint's the same style as the one we're actually using for this session as well. So all this has come over with text. It's got the same fonts, same settings, all that sort of stuff. Anything that was a separate text block is made separately. Logos and things like that are carried over as well. One thing you'll notice is these little sort of lines that were I think they were just little shape graphics within PowerPoint have all been added in as individual little shapes, and they are actually just lines. So if I wanted these to be a different color now from my Lectora file, I can pop up into my style tab here, and I can edit those as I want. It won't let me do it all at once, but if I want to make them thicker or thinner, basically anything I can do with a line, I can do with these, because it's just converted them over to something that makes sense. Because I didn't tick that box to carry over the groups of shapes, it's done them all individually, whereas depending on the size of that one, it could have just been added that in as an image as well. It's also done some of the inheritance stuff, the global stuff. So some of these at the top here, depending on my slides, other slides had these ones sitting there in the background versus specific pages. So it's done the inheritance properly for those as well. And once it's all in Lectora, you can do all the normal Lectora stuff. So you can check your inheritance, you can omit things from certain pages if you want, you can add your own sort of headings. For example, the page heading little text here, I didn't have that set up as a master slide thing in the PowerPoint, so it's done it for each page. Whereas if they were all in the same spot and that made sense to do so, it would have added those in as its own little global thing instead. So little things like that. Everything else should pretty much convert over in a way where it makes sense in Lectora as well. But the big thing is it saves a lot of time with things like layouts, all that sort of stuff. Some formatting things will change a little bit, so you always want to double check. You can see here one of these. These were dot points, I think, and it didn't really like how my dot points were set up, so it's done them sort of with funny numbers instead. Little things like that you've always got to check. It's not a perfect process to go just directly into a file, but little tweaks like that are always being changed and added as well. There was not much else complex in here. I'll just have a quick look through if I had some with images in it as well. If you've ever done our scenario VR showcase session, you'll recognize this that I'm showing you. Images come in fine. They're all imported. It'll create the Lectora folder. It'll have them all sitting there ready for you as well. Now that I'm in a course, I will just show you that other method. So if you specifically had a course set up and you wanted to just add one single page from a PowerPoint, at any point you can go up to your Tools tab and go Import here from PowerPoint. A similar sort of setup. We'll go in and find the PowerPoint I want to use, select it there, open it up, and it's going to give me a little preview of each slide, so I can sort of scroll down and have a look here. Maybe I wanted to import one differently, or if I've got another slide I want to grab in, you can grab as many of these as you want. You can select them all if you want to, or just select single ones that you want. Maybe I want that last page again. You can grab that in. Click Next, and it's got a sort of limited list of options here. So this is probably more similar to what you'd see in the older versions. I think page size, transitions, and images were always the settings you'd see. So when you're importing just directly from here, you've only got those options because it's not doing the whole course itself. It's just individual pages or screens, and you can tweak these as needed. This is a good example where maybe you had one page in your PowerPoint with GIFs and you imported everything else as PNG in that first process. You go through and select the GIF page and then come in here and actually specify that this one needs to be GIFs. You've then got a copy of that with the GIFs working properly. So that's just a quick sort of shortcut there. Rather than having to grab these pages one way, these pages another way, you can insert that one specifically in a different format. The only thing to consider here is when it's added in, it's going to add it in its own little chapter separately. So you've just got to move it around. If I want to go down here, I've got that page in here now. That's all fine. My images look a little bit funny because I turn them into GIFs instead. And then I can just move that page up if I want to. It does do all those other defaults I mentioned here as well because I've imported the page itself. It's added those actions I mentioned because I didn't have the option to turn it off. Whereas when I imported the whole project, I had the option to turn it off, and I often just turn these off regardless because I don't think that's a common thing done in courses these days where you can just press space to enter. If people are using keyboard controls, they're usually a bit different from that as well, and that can interfere with it. So that's just adding a single page in on top if I need to. I can delete that chapter there. So I've basically got the same of both of these pages. You can see it's done a little differently between the two. So depending on what's actually being added, it'll work slightly differently. Yeah, that's kind of it for importing PowerPoint. It sort of depends on how complex your PowerPoint file is as well when you're putting it in. So if you've got a lot of really crazy stuff going on, videos and all that sort of stuff, luckily PowerPoint doesn't have a lot of crazy interactive stuff like Lectora does. So there's not a lot of stuff that it needs to sort of translate over outside of things like transitions and group order and things like that as well. The transitions also adhere to things like within the PowerPoint when they appear, all that sort of stuff. So if you've done a lot of work in there, it should hopefully copy that over for you. That's probably all you need to know about that side of things. It's something that, yeah, we've seen done a fair bit. We've done it a fair bit as well. Like I said, probably from the storyboarding side more often. It saves you having to sort of teach an SME Lectora or convert from a Word document over. Whatever process works better for you. The PowerPoint side of things is pretty handy, and they're always adding little things to it. So there may be little tweaks there that we will get in the future that make it a little bit easier. It's a bit of a time saver if that's something that you're already doing a certain way. So that's what we've got for that one. Any other questions on that? Yeah, Michael?
I think also just keep in mind when you're designing your PowerPoint slide that you'll need a space for your navigation because when you do come in, you'll need to add your next and back buttons, or if you are someone who has the space bar to move forward and backwards, you'll need to add that page so that there's a space for the next to back and home and any of that sort of stuff, because that's where you would add it now in this as well.
Yeah, and if you already had a template or something set up, you could probably have your process done in a way where your PowerPoint is set up with gaps where those things would be, and you're just bringing your content over in a way that's a little bit faster there. One thing I mean to mention with the images as well, so it's something that we're hoping they'll probably add soon. Lectora now has support for SVG files, which are graphic files that are vector based. So if you've ever done anything with vectors, basically you can scale them as much as you want. They never go blurry. They can be at any size. They're really good. Lectora is now using those properly. PowerPoint's also using them, but it won't take them from PowerPoint and put them into Lectora yet. So hopefully that's something that on that little drop down list, they may have an option to add that in at some point as well. And that'll make things a little bit easier as well, because people are using those more often for courses if they want them to scale. Lectora has publish options now where you can have it automatically scale the course to fit any screen when you publish, and SVGs make that super easy, so you're not having to worry about blurry images and things like that, especially for icons and buttons and things as well. So that's something we're hoping to see soon, but it's not there just yet.
Yeah, so it's also if you set your PowerPoint slides up ready, you can look at using it as with your SMEs, subject matter experts, to create sort of, while you're creating the course, you can sort of do it in the format so that when the storyboard's finished in PowerPoint, then you can just import it straight in and then just start relabeling things and tweaking things. But at least, let's say 60% of it's done and over there while you add the little tweaks and extra items. So it does come in very handy. And by all means, if anyone here wants more informational questions in regards to this PowerPoint stuff, just send them through so we can sort of help you out. And if some really good stuff comes through, we might even redo this and add in that extra tips in the next session for those who turned up, just so that everyone's aware of it, because it is handy.
Yeah, and if you do try it out and something else weird happens, let us know. Or yeah, if you want to try it out and it doesn't work, let us know for that as well. All good.
Fantastic.
Alrighty, so I'll jump back to my little presentation here. I've got a couple of other things. So as we said, with these sessions, what we sort of want to do is, yeah, have a quick topic that we talk about, whether it's a new feature or something that's come up pretty often. We can pop those in, and then outside of that, I'm doing support stuff most weeks as well. So if there's any sort of common support issues that come up, something just to talk about as well. Maybe something you've seen before, maybe something you currently had issues with. I may have maybe issues that some of you guys have recently had with me and I've brought in, but yeah, feel free to bring those in as well on top of that. So I've got a couple here prepared that I've had a look at recently, just to go through, and we can have a quick chat on those as well. So, sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, is that you, Lise?
Wasn't me.
Oh, somebody popped in. All good. Okay, so first one here, we've had it all the time, pretty constantly as well. It can come up in different ways. It seems like a little bit of a more complex issue, but it's to do with your courses communicating with the LMS, and it can work very different ways. Most of the thing you'll see at the start there is that LMS SetValue Error. This will be in your LMS. You're doing your course. Often it happens at the end when you've finished your quiz. You'll see that pop up. It usually lets you just click OK and continue on, but it's not something you want your users to see, and also you want to double check it's not actually causing a problem as well. The main point of this error, or why it comes up, is to do with the data that's going into your LMS, especially things to do with like scores or completion data. It's very common to, if you've manually set up actions to set completion in your LMS, they need to be done a very certain way for them to work correctly. The LMS is expecting a certain word or whatever it ends up being to say, yes, this person's completed. And if it doesn't get that, it says, I don't know what this word is, and it gets cranky at you. So depending on what that is exactly. Sometimes these errors are really helpful if you know what you're looking for. So it looks scary. It's a bunch of words that don't make sense. You don't really need to pay attention to too much of what's there. Often there'll be something here in little brackets, and that highlights the main part you need to look at. I found this screenshot from an old case. I don't remember exactly why someone had this specific value in here, but usually you would see this come up and say you've put in the word completed or passed or whatever it is, and the LMS didn't like that, and it says it's incorrect. A really common thing with that is for your completion status. There's specific wording that the LMS wants. It usually wants completed or incomplete. Some of them use passed and failed. They are also very specific where most of them are case sensitive. So you want lowercase letters. So the most common one of these I'll see come up is this exact error you see on the screen. In the little brackets part, it'll say completed with a capital C. If I ever see that, then I know straight away where to go, where to check. It's the action on their last page or on their quiz that's setting that value, and the LMS doesn't like it. Outside of that, you will often see, actually, I'll go back to Lectora for this one. I might have to just pretend to publish this to show you. It's going to want some actions there. Let me just quickly bear with me for a second. Basically, sometimes this error comes up and it doesn't specify anything in the brackets. It'll just come up and say LMS SetValue Error, and it doesn't like it. Often you'll see in the LMS that the score hasn't passed through either, so it's had an issue with that. Let me just publish this one. It's going to ask me for a quiz and an exit button. I can quickly pop those in as we go here. I was just going to talk about this, but it's better to show it, so I'll pop this in really quickly. Just another tip while I'm doing this: if you ever need to publish to SCORM, you either need a a quiz, or an action that sets a completion and an exit button. Let me just quickly pop these in. And now that should let me publish. I'll do that. I don't need to go all the way through the publish. I just want to show you this. No, it's not. I can actually run those. What happens when you do things on the fly? Go away. Show. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. Come on. They're not in the right spot. That's all you. Next time I'll just have this prepared instead. Here we go. Not happy with that for some reason. It's another error I can have a look at. It's definitely doing what I'm asking it to do. Fix my own issues before I fix anyone else's. It's the wrong action, that's why. Okay, here we go, round 3. So we'll publish this out. If you ever see that error come up that we saw before, but it doesn't specify any sort of code or any wording that it wants, something I always jump in to have a look at is in your publish settings here, so in the SCORM options. The second option here says the published course will report test and survey question interaction to the LMS. This is something Lectora has always done. Not very many systems can actually take this data that it's trying to push out. Now that we use things like xAPI, it's similar to that type of thing. This data actually passes through the questions themselves, what's being answered, what answers people are picking, all that sort of stuff. But it's doing it through SCORM, which is a bit of an older way of doing it. Often people either have this ticked by default, or they think that they need it ticked because they have a test, etc. If you aren't specifically wanting to see the question data and know that your system can actually take that data in, this is just going to cause an error because it's basically pushing through a bunch of information that the system doesn't know what to do with. It knows completion, it knows the score, but it says, oh, question 1 is this answer. The system doesn't necessarily know or care about that. So first thing I'll always go in is come in and check if you specifically needed this ticked and you know you did, then we'll have a look at what else might be happening. If you didn't, just untick it. It's usually safest to say my default sort of publish, unless you know otherwise, is to have the first one ticked and the second one not ticked. And then third one's bookmarking if you usually want that as well. But that's to do with that LMS SetValue Error. So but beyond the completion, wording, all that sort of stuff, that's a quick one to check and turn off that we see quite often as well. I'll close that one down. We don't need to actually publish this. And yeah, that's just a quick one on that. So that one does come up pretty often. I'd say it's one of the more common issues to do with LMS stuff and SCORM that I do see come up. And it's an easy one to do as well, especially with the case sensitive stuff, completion, whatever it is. Even if it's spelled wrong, that's less common, but if it's spelled wrong, it'll ping you on that as well. So you usually can and see that pop up as well. Yeah, outside of that one, I've got another just more Lectora based one. Pop through here, which also comes up pretty often. I think I had one this week that they didn't need help with it because they'd seen it before, but this one's pretty common. So you may see this error message usually when you're opening a course in Lectora. It's basically it can't find some of the images that you've got in the course. So if you don't know, Lectora courses don't just sit in a single file on their own, like a Word document or a PowerPoint. They have their AWT file, which is your course file. I can actually show one of these at the risk of doing things on the fly again. Let me just pop open any sort of course here. That's a published course. Let's just open up something random. Anyway, either way, your course will have your AWT file, which is your Lectora file. It'll often have images, media, depending on what you've got in your course. So images, of course, is any graphics. Media is to do with anything like videos, audio, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes you'll see other ones come up, but basically Lectora has those sitting in separate folders. And it's really common that people don't realize that they're separate, but need to stay together. So if you move your AWT file, which is your Lectora course file, if you move it onto the desktop or just into another folder or something, and it loses contact with those folders, and you open that course, Lectora is going to say, hey, I couldn't find this resource. And it's going to run through this basically once for every single asset you've got. So if you ever opened up a course and this pops up and you just click OK, you're going to be clicking OK 20 to 100 something times, depending on the size of the course, because it's lost all the images. They're not lost, they're just not pointing to it correctly. So you just need to make sure you don't move those around separately. You always move the whole folder together. The other really common one here is that if you try to open a course that's zipped, it can't actually see the folders properly because they're zipped as well. It tries to open the course, but it acts as if all the resources are gone as well. So that's a really common one. So someone sent you a course as a zip file. It is the correct folder. It's got the AWT. It's got the other folders there with it. But because they're zipped, it's sort of blocking them and you can't actually open them properly. And you'll click through this and then open your course. It'll have text, but all the images will just be gone and you think you've lost your whole course. But sometimes just as simple as unzipping a folder. One other thing I do sometimes see this happen with when people open courses directly from a network drive or vice versa. Sometimes that connection isn't quite strong enough where the course itself's open, but it can't quite find the folder, or it's a timing issue where the folder hasn't loaded fully across the drive. And it'll say the same thing even though you know the course is there. So I often say, and I probably annoy some people, maybe some of you, by saying it very often, to just open your courses from the desktop instead. It's usually safest as well. It avoids little problems like this. This is an easy problem, but you can have some other bigger problems when you open your courses directly from a hard drive and it gets unplugged, or from SharePoint and there's a connection issue, all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, this one's looks scary when it comes up because you think you've lost your whole course and everything, but it's often a simple fix depending on what it is. And you can usually see where it's pointing at. It'll specify each image. If you have specifically moved one image out, maybe that's the only one that's missing, or you've renamed one as well, that'll happen. But unless you've done it on purpose, you'll usually find it's one of the other problems that have happened as well. Yeah, that's probably one of our pretty common issues that come up a lot. I'm sure some of you have seen this before. I've probably helped you with it before as well. So yeah. Outside of that, we can have a little quick session if there are any other things that come to mind or anything I've talked about today. We can have a quick chat about. Otherwise, yeah, that's what we've got sort of set up for this session. I'll open it up to you guys. You can feel free to pop it in the chat as well if you don't want to jump on mic. Good. Yeah. No, that's a good, yeah. I often have people say to me that they feel like they've missed something or they feel silly, but you'd be surprised how much this stuff happens to everyone. I think it's only because I've seen it so many times that I can get through it pretty easily. Anything to add, Michael, Lisa?
No, and I think everyone just, even when you were just troubleshooting then, Will, even the experts have to sometimes think about what's just happened.
Depending on how prepared or not prepared you are.
Yeah. So it's actually good to see, and it's reassuring for people as well. And that's, I think it brings up, it's the main thing with these is trying to make you guys not sit there for hours and hours trying to solve one problem. You can come to us to help you so you can move forward and don't get stuck for hours, and don't feel bad about coming to us for help. The whole point is that you don't waste hours on one sort of issue when we do have Will who could probably solve it within about 5 minutes or even less. So that's why it's always there to come through to us if you're stuck on something.
Yeah. And yeah, definitely don't feel bad about having problems, because some problems I know because I've seen and helped people with, and other problems I know because I've made the same mistake myself many times. So yeah, very good.
And it's not always you. Could be
that's
external
right.
issues.
Very often the tool.
Yeah.
You've got to know where to look.
We're so pleased that you joined us this morning. Thank you so much. And we're really excited to be able to provide you with this opportunity to access directly the amazingly knowledgeable Will. Hopefully we'll see you next time.
Yes, as mentioned, any ideas or anything you'd like to see in the future, please email them through to us so we can add these. If these are quite successful, then we may even look at doing them multiple times per month. But at the moment, I think our goal is just at least a minimum one per month to start off with. But send your ideas through, even if it's something you've had trouble with and you figured out yourself, and you go, oh, someone in the Lectora community might gain help from this. Send it through to us so that we might put it as a session. To share.
And if there's enough to say about it, I can have that as the main topic thing we look at. Or if it's a quick little one like those other two, I can go through. There may be more than what we've even seen before. Maybe it's something I haven't seen the full detail of, and we'll find more about it together. So
Never.
Yeah.
Okay,
No
thank
worries.
you so
Thanks
much.
all.
We'll leave you to your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thanks, guys.